Rapheal Davis podcast, brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. Today we got three special guests. We got three of my buddies joining us, Nick, Joe, and Connor. Some of the Purdue's biggest fans, some of the guys we're going to break down last night's game against Michigan State, and that's exactly where we're going to start. What do you guys think about last night?
I think one of the biggest things that for me last night that I saw that I liked a lot was Edey being able to come in and get fouls on their guys to kind of balance out what happened with Trey early on. I think that's really going to be huge as we get kind of into this tournament run. I think he's going to have to really step up, and I'm excited to see a lot of growth for him.
I like that. That's a good point. What about you? What about you other guys?
I'll add on to that. What I liked at one point was that quick little 2-minute burst from Ivy. I can't remember where in the game it was, but when he had that backdoor cut that Travion hit him on, threw it down, and then he sent Thomas Kithier shot off the backboard and then drilled that three. We were struggling to shoot the ball. I feel like Painter says it all the time, but these guys can shoot the ball, but we obviously haven't seen the results, perfectly yet besides the IU game. But I feel like just knocking down those rhythm threes will be big for their confidence if they can continue to do that. Obviously, Travion's a dog, but I think that'll be huge.
Right.
Also, I'd like to add on to Jaden Ivey as well. I think that whole 2-minute burst is really good for a guy like his confidence and just his willingness to attack the basket at all times during the game can really just spread out the defense, especially for a team that's struggling to shoot threes. Because we saw that kind of in the second half where he was able to get open for one, and then he found Hunter in the corner and he hit one, and just kind of started to pile on. I think that 2-minute sequence kind of won the game.
Oh yeah, I feel that. Where do you see this team going? I mean, big win last night against Michigan State at home. And where do we see this team kind of going as we lead into March? What's kind of, as a fan, kind of your expectations, but realistically knowing they're one of the youngest team in college basketball and knowing that March is one of the hardest times for even veteran teams. I mean, as seniors, we lost in double overtime to Little Rock, Arkansas. So what are we thinking about this team?
That one.
Yeah,
Connor and I actually talked about this. Yeah, I do. PTSD. You want to go ahead, Connor?
No, I was going to say, I think Goodman, or however you pronounce his name, Jeff, the ESPN guy, hit it pretty I thought he hit the hammer on the nail when he said, this Purdue team can be elite. I believe that they can be elite. But I just feel like if they can get hot and start shooting the ball, I don't know. I feel like the expectation right now is that round of 32 Sweet 16, which far exceeds the expectations that I had for this team going into the year. And I thought it would take more time for this group to gel. And I had no clue that Zach Edey was remotely close to ready. I don't think anyone did. But they're kind of on that fringe, just not consistent yet. If they can put some consistency together, they'll be dangerous.
We'll make them consistent.
Well, that's a good question.
I think that shooting would help.
No, yeah, that's obvious. And I think the defense has really actually been pretty consistent as of late. Yesterday, Michigan State's not a great team offensively, but I thought that we made that game physical. I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents. I feel like our defense is kind of coming together. When you got a guy like Jaden Ivey who can, basically, I don't know, it changes the game. Aaron Wheeler when he was a freshman in that Tennessee game, I thought he'd change that game defensively early on. Just make plays like that really make a difference in a tournament game, I think.
No doubt.
Yeah,
and as we lead into March, like I said, we're having a fun season. Obviously we don't want to get it too ahead of ourselves, but as we look at this young team, what's been excited about the season? What's gotten us? Because we took some losses. So what's kept you guys kind of watching? What's kept you guys excited about the team? Even through the tough losses, let's bring you back to the next game.
Definitely that Michigan State game in East Lansing. I thought we were down and out, and I was like, oh, it's going to be another down year and it's just a growing year. And then we were in Florida at a bar watching it, and all of a sudden we started coming back and we got that turnover at the end and Trey hit the shot, and I
Yep.
stared down the bar at my dad and we looked at each other like, did we just win that game? And I felt like that was kind of what turned the season, almost like when Kendall Stevens hit the corner 3 against Penn State. That kind of turned your season around and got you guys on track. And I feel like that's kind of like those program changing moments that definitely will help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of when, what were we, 6-4 or something going into the Kohl Center when we went to the Elite Eight that year. And then Carson put up, I don't know, 30 at Wisconsin. That was I feel like it was kind of like one of those wins that kind of drove us into a streak. And then we've kind of plateaued a little bit now. So hopefully, we're able to peak moving forward here with IU. Who else we got? IU, Wisconsin,
Nebraska.
Who else is on line?
Yeah, that definitely. We could definitely win out. I don't see. I mean, obviously the Big Ten at this point, it's no circling wins. Like at one point there was a time where you could look at the schedule, you maybe get you one, but now you got to come out there and play. Because even like against IU, Trace Jackson-Davis is still one of the best players in the league, and no matter who you have, yeah, exactly. Like no matter who you have, or when you have one of the better players in the league, that's gonna be a tough going, no matter what's going on. But as we go forward, what are you guys looking at? Are you guys paying attention to the recruits? Or do you guys pay attention to that stuff? What are you guys looking at? What are you excited about? What's that?
Well, so I was doing a little math, and we got like a bunch of really good freshmen this year with the 2 red shirts, and then 2 4s coming in next year. That gives us 3 4s in the same kind of like 2 classes back to back. I was kind of wondering your thoughts on how that shakes out in the future, as we have like 7 what looked to be really good prospects. Hoping to see more of Morton. I know that he's a good prospect, just kind of got sick earlier in the year and hasn't shown a ton, but kind of how do you think that'll play out as this team kind of fits together and grows?
I just think it make practice fun. Whoever plays the best in practice will play. It's one of those situations. That's what you want to have as a team. It's what you want to have as a coach. You want to be able to have a deep roster. All of those guys can play multiple positions, especially the way Paint does it. You got the big fellas. Caleb can play both the 4 and the 5. So, all those guys can do different things. It'll make practice tough. Paint has gotten to the position where he's allowing his program to grow old, where others programs can't. So, hopefully Caleb plays until he's a senior, and then he starts out playing against these guys as a freshman. What is he going to do to the Big Ten as a senior? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when Frank Kaminsky went to Wisconsin, he didn't play as a freshman. You know what I mean? So, he ends up being a lottery pick. So, and that was his senior year. Yeah, I don't think Frank played that much his junior year. So I think Frank's senior year is when he burst on the scene. So that's what you want. You want your program to grow old, and the way your program is going to grow old is if you get those guys, those freshmen that can play as freshmen, but by the time they're seniors, it's no taking them off the floor. And that's exactly what those 5 freshmen that came in when I was a junior, those 5 freshmen won a Big Ten championship, should have won another one. And then when they leave, the class after them wins another one. So, you want your program to continue getting old. Grady Eifert, Grady Eifert was a walk-on that came in as a freshman behind Isaac, Jaquil, AJ, Biggie. So, you think about it like that, he ends up as a senior in the Elite Eight as the most efficient player in college country, and now he's on scholarship. So,
he was huge for us.
Yeah, so Paint's grown old before, and I think he's gotten the right young guys that understand trusting the process. Because, early in the season, you got, who was that? Brandon and that Mason. They asked, Eric wasn't even playing. I think it was after the Miami game. They asked Eric to watch film at like 5 in the morning. So these guys understand the process of getting better. They understand how they can gel as a team. But freshmen coming in, they want to play. Obviously, upperclassmen don't want to lose their minutes. So it just makes for a fun practice.
Yeah, yeah, I think the versatility, kind of like you said, like if Caleb can play the 5, that'd be huge, because last night there was some foul trouble, and I'm not sure what's going on with Manny, but not having that third 5 or someone who can play that position is a little bit, I don't know. It's more of like peace of mind type of thing. But and I heard that Trey Kaufman wants to play the 3 too, kind of like a Vince Edwards kind of guy. But I don't know if that'll end up happening.
I mean, our 4 and our 3, and the way we kind of flow and the way paint yells move. I mean, if you're not posting up on the block, you're kind of moving anyway. So it's pretty interchangeable in a sense. But I mean, obviously we have certain plays or where you got to be certain spots. But I mean, I came in and I was 6'4". I played the 4 as a freshman. So I played the 4, the 3, the 2. So I mean, if I could play the 4, he can definitely play the 3. You know what I mean? So yeah. But outside of just the season now, you guys got any questions for me or anything that you guys want to talk about? Kind of, I always like to open it up a little bit. I always take a part in the podcast where I ask the guests questions from Twitter, but I guess you guys are Twitter, so you guys
Pretty
can ask me the
much.
questions.
Yeah, I can start it off. Just kind of.
Well, hold on, my bad. Let me say this before, because I always forget to throw it out that I am having a basketball camp, West Lafayette, spring break, both weekends of spring break, both school counties. If you're in town, West Lafayette, spring break, basketball camp, Legacy Courts. Then we're having our basketball camp in Fort Wayne, spring break, Fort Wayne school system, April 5th through 7th. So definitely make sure you sign up for camp, RaphealDavisBasketball.com. But my bad, man. I always just like to throw that out there at some point. Sometimes I forget. But go ahead. Any questions you guys got? Anything about me, the team, stories, anything you guys want to hear?
Yeah, I guess I got a quick question to start it off. Can you kind of talk about how recruiting looks like? Because for us, like, we've obviously never been recruited. And I was just curious, kind of like what kind of pitches, quote unquote pitches, I guess, do other coaches have to recruits that Paint does not use? Like, as a biased Purdue fan, it makes so much sense to go to Purdue, right? Like, you're going to become a better player. You're going to compete for conference championships. And like, we're on the brink of a Final Four, it seems like. But we always have some guys like, turn their nose at Purdue and kind of go to like Stanford with Harrison Ingram. Like, Purdue, obviously, to a biased Purdue fan, would be like a no-brainer in that case. But like, what type of tactics would Painter use besides, obviously, everyone says that he's honest?
Well, I mean, I can't really. That's the tactic. His honesty. Want 2 things. One, I think that is the tactic, his honesty, and I'm not saying the other schools do, but he doesn't sell a dream. I'm not saying other places will, but I mean, Paint, the proof is in the pudding. He's honest. He won't sell a dream. I mean, you come in, you get better. You're seeing Carson Edwards. You're seeing Etwan Moore. You see Robbie Hummer. You see Juwan Johnson. You see AJ Hammonds. You see him produce NBA bigs, NBA guards. But I mean, another thing too about it is that I committed as a freshman just because I like honesty. I mean, I grew up around, I was raised around real honest people, real loyal people, and it's a sense of feeling that you get when you're around that. So I attracted to that early. So I didn't really need the pitches. I mean, Coach Jack Owens would call me every day. So I mean, I knew he cared about me. So I didn't necessarily get that recruiting type of red carpet laid out for me because I committed so early. And that was I think it was a freshman. And I had been started getting recruited in like 8th grade. I think IU came to an 8th grade game. So I didn't understand really what was going on anyway. I just knew once I met Purdue and once I met Paint that it was a different feel that he got. But I will say, I mean, guys always make different decisions. I mean, sometimes it never even comes down to the program. Sometimes it comes down to that kid's personal situation, their family. I mean, Stanford's still a great school. Maybe they had an educational situation that Purdue didn't have. So it can always, sometimes it does weigh out to that because, I mean, life is bigger than basketball for some people. So you may want a kid to come to Purdue, but if Purdue doesn't have a certain degree that another school is offering, it may make sense. But if players wanted to always live in California it's 15 inches of snow right now. So there's certain things that go into it that are just to have nothing to do with basketball. Because there's no way a kid should or could look at Paint and say he doesn't know basketball. He can't get to the next level. I mean, he does USA stuff. I mean, he has the right people in the right places. That's proven it.
Yeah, kind of on the same topic of recruiting. What are your opinions in general of like just one and done guys and kind of programs that seem to produce a lot of one and done guys?
I mean, what do you mean?
So I really always appreciate that Purdue seems to like build guys, as you talked about with Grady and stuff, kind of, or growing old. And I appreciate rooting for a program that does that. And I kind of see positives and negatives as far as college basketball as a whole, for having like one and done superstar guys that can bring viewers. We don't seem to get a lot of those. That's good for me, but some people really like it. I was just wondering your opinion on like those kind of guys, if it's good for college basketball, you know, why some programs might not want that. You know, it's hard to build like a long program where you make it many years in a row if you just got one year.
Yeah. I enjoy watching college basketball. When a program does get old, it does make for better basketball. But I don't think a player's objective coming out of high school should be, how can I make college basketball better? I think their objective should be, how can I make myself better to reach my goals? I mean, some players, believe it or not, don't have a dream of playing in March Madness. They want to do what they have to do in college. They want to get the opportunity to make it to the NBA. They've only dreamed of playing in the NBA. They never dreamed of playing in the Final Four. As fans, we grew up, we loved it, we watched it. But there are certain guys that, I'm playing basketball at the park, I'm watching the NBA. I'm not watching college basketball on CBS. Like, there's really guys out there like that. So we also got to take that into account. So for me, when guys go one and done, I support it 100%. If you're good enough, definitely go, because why not? I mean, you come back, you get your degree at any point, you get your degree while you're playing in the league. But if you're good enough to go and you feel comfortable and your family, your support system, they feel comfortable with you going, definitely go. Because, at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. And I'm one of those guys, I'm pro college basketball, but I'm a pro player. And a player has to do what's best for their family. But, as a team that can grow old, like a Wisconsin, like a Purdue, like the teams normally get more success. But, we've seen Kentucky win with it. We've seen Kentucky lose with it. But we've also seen Purdue come in last place with the older team. You know what I mean? So it just goes both ways.
Yeah, good points.
Support for today's episode of Boiler with Rapheal Davis is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family's jewels. They obsessed over technology developments to provide you with the best experience for your grooming. With more than 2 million users worldwide, Manscaped has partnered with me to provide an exclusive offer for you guys. 20% off and free shipping with the code BOILER, BOILER, at manscaped.com. Before we get back to the show, let me tell you a little bit about their Perfect Package 3.0 kit. It starts with the Lawnmower 3.0, the third generation trimmer that features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. You don't want to worry about nicking the goods while you're trying to clean up down there. Feel confident while you're shaving your balls with the Lawnmower 3.0. In addition to the new blade, the Lawnmower 3.0 comes with the LED light for more precise trim. And it's waterproof, so you can take grooming to the shower. Truth be told, you don't want to be using the same trimmer on your balls and your face. The Perfect Package 3.0 also comes with the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. The Crop Preserver, which keeps the goods from sticking to your leg, plus the Manscaped threw in a couple free gifts, a pair of boxer briefs, a travel bag, so you can go on the trim wherever. So get your 20% off and free shipping right now. Help us keep this podcast alive with the code BOILER, BOILER, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping, and you get to help us out a little bit. Manscaped.com with the code BOILER, BOILER. Your balls will thank you, but I will thank you as well. Thank you.
I think you saw that with most prevalently with DeAndre Ayton. That Arizona team was real good. We beat them bad in the Bahamas, but they should have done some damage in the tournament, I feel like. And they almost were dejected, it looked like. But speaking of good teams, kind of, I guess, a team that I feel like no one talks about was that 2015 Wisconsin team that beat that undefeated. I think Kentucky was undefeated that year. And they had like Trey Lyles and who else on that team? Well, was Willie Cauley-Stein maybe? I can't remember who. They had Frank Kaminsky, Bronson Koenig, Nigel Hayes, Sam Decker, Josh Gosser. Like all those guys were really good players. And I'm honestly asking this question because one of my closest work friends is a huge Wisconsin fan. But I always thought that Bronson Koenig was like the key to that team. Now he disagrees and thinks it was all Frank Kaminsky, but I was kind of curious, like, would you say it was harder to handle? Yeah, was it harder to handle a big that could shoot the ball, considering we did play a traditional five like AJ and Isaac?
Well, I mean,
or
I
was it like
Frank a lot. So, I mean, he wasn't like a traditional five because, I mean, if he posted up, I just got help over top. So, I mean, it was a front. I would say, I mean, Frank is really good. Obviously, he's a starter in the NBA. I mean, he's definitely really, really good. And he's player of the year, I think, that year, something like that. So, obviously, he was their catalyst. But you always need somebody that can make you guys go. And, I mean, that year, Bronson could go out there. He get you 12 straight. And he was doing things that I hadn't seen a Wisconsin point guard normally do off the dribble, the way he was pulling up and doing certain things. He definitely gave them a certain swag and tempo. He was not, to me, he was not the traditional control the offense, slow pace Wisconsin point guard. He kind of gave, and I mean, Sam Decker was, I was in the same class as Sam Decker. I mean, he a freak athlete. So the way Wisconsin played that year, to me, was different kind of normally than how they normally would play. And I think Bronson definitely led that charge. But I think having Frank and having like a freak player to go inside and out, I mean, it helps you 100%. But I think it just depends on the game. Because, I mean, there were games that we would watch, and I'd be like, yo, PJ, yo, John Octis, yo, J.O., this dude going to cook y'all. So it just
Good luck, guys.
It just depends on what was going on. But Bronson was really good. But I mean, Frank, Sam, I mean, even Nigel could go out there. I think Nigel had a better year that year than he did the next. I mean, just being able to play off of those guys, they were a really good team. Yeah. We should have beat them 100%. We had them in the tournament.
Yeah, I think you guys might have played them in the Big Ten championship or something that year.
Yeah, the semifinals, yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. They were good.
Yeah, everybody thinks I gave Sam Decker a pound, like at a free throw line or something like that. It's like a picture of it. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next year was when you guys played Michigan State in the Big Ten championship.
Yep. The next year we played Michigan State in the Big Ten championship. Then we had to go in the locker after we lost. We had to go in the locker room and act like we were excited for Selection Sunday. Like that was fun. Like that was you never think about that side of it when like the team just won the championship and they're celebrating on camera and it's Selection Sunday and they look happy. But the team that just lost the championship, I mean, you kind of still have to be happy for the cameras, but you kind of get really salty. Yeah, so no, it was cool though. It was definitely cool. That was a fun year. Coming from last place to going to third, I think we finished tied for second or third that next year, then the same that next year. I mean, that was a quick turnaround, and it was as if the last place never happened. I'll talk about it a lot, but a lot of people don't.
That was a fun team to watch when, like, as kind of the, that class of PJ and Vince kind of growing older, but they still got, like, the mentorship from, like, you. And I guess you're probably the only one left in your class on the team at that point, right?
AJ. Me and AJ were together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
AJ
true.
was my freshman roommate.
What was it, Ronnie in that class technically?
It was 5 of us. AJ, myself, Ronnie, Jay Simpson, Stephen Torah. Yep. Jay Simpson had to retire from basketball because he had a heart issue. Mm-hmm. Then Ronnie transferred. Steven ended up finishing out. He was a walk-on. He ended up he was a very businessman basketball player. I love Steve, man. That was dude. Business dude. But no, it was that was a fun class to be a part of, especially from coming in last place to seeing guys leave, to seeing guys want to go and get better situations and kind of I mean, I'm being dramatic, but leaving us for dead in a sense, thinking that it was over here at Purdue. I mean, spilling things out that Purdue isn't the school to go to, like you would ask that question. It was once a time where a kid would say, "No, I'm not going to Purdue. They trash." Like, I mean, we were last place in big. Like, I asked Dakota and PJ, like, well, who commits to the last place team in the Big Ten? Like, who does that? And those guys had a type of fight that they wanted to come in and fix it. And when guys left out and you have 5 guys come in that want to fix it, that get to their very first workout 2 hours early, I mean, it makes like my life so much easier. And then when those guys allow you to lead them, I mean, because Paint said on our podcast on the other day, I mean, a couple weeks ago, that he didn't know the type of leadership I was giving out, like the type of punishment I was, whatever. I always thought he knew. I always thought for some reason in my head, Paint made that up. So I even would tell guys like, nah, Paint said get on the VersaClimb. Like, nah, like it came from the top. I would always say that. I wouldn't say Paint said. I would say, nah, it came from the top. Nobody ever questioned me on who the top was. And I never, in my head, it was Paint. So it was one of the things where
That's
those
perfect.
guys, they wanted to be led. They wanted to win. They knew where we had come from. And they wanted to be a part of a winning culture. And it was, that year was after I'm lying. We had a great summer. John Noctius comes in October. We go to Maui. We have fun. We win some games. But then we hit December. We lose to North Florida, Garner-Webb, Vanderbilt. No, who was the fourth? We lose to fourth. Oh, and Notre Dame. We lose all 4 games in a row going into Christmas. Like, Payne gave us Christmas off. We were playing Minnesota, I think, on like a Thursday. And like we got practice on and like at this time I'm a junior, so I understand practice, I understand schedules. We played in a couple of days, we shouldn't be going hard. You know what I mean? Our legs, we need our legs. That was kind of always our thing. We need our legs. We came back from like that break and we got into Mackey, and it must have been like all rules in college basketball had went out the window. Like it was like no regard for human life in that practice. Like, but it was one of those practices that it made us come together as a team because we all looked at each other and we could not stand the coaches. If you went for a pump fake, if you went for a jab step, you had to run to the top of Mackey. Like it was one of those questions. It was one of those practices where you question if you could make it through the end of it. So I mean, after that, we all got to go in the locker room. We got to, kick it, and we won a game, Minnesota. The next, we go on the road to Penn State, and you mentioned it earlier. Kendall hit a shot that kind of helped our season kind of make a pivot in our season. But that halftime, I mean, I remember that halftime. I don't remember a lot of halftimes, but I remember that halftime because I lost it. Like, I don't know if Paint spoke because I felt as though we were creeping right back. We had just lost 4 in a row. We won a big one at home. We on the road. It felt like we were going back into that previous season. And we hit that mode and we came out, we won that game, and I don't think we looked back. I think that gave us a lot of confidence. We ended up going on like a 5 or 6 game win streak. And then, we lost early in the tournament, but to come from last place in the Big Ten to have that type of season the next year, and then, the next year you get a McDonald's All-American. That was a really, and you get the Mr. Basketball and the runner-up for Mr. Basketball. So, then you also get a guy that ends up being the most efficient player in college basketball. Yeah, Elite 8 starting forward. It just turned around real quick. But Paint I don't know if Paint's ever said it, but I think Paint went after a certain guy, a certain attitude after we came in last place. I think we have Purdue guys in the locker room. Even now, to this day, we getting Purdue guys. Like Caleb First is a Purdue guy. I say that. He's from Fort Wayne, and I love it. But he's a Purdue guy. I've seen him in the gym once. I've seen Fletcher work out once. Those are Purdue kids. Those are guys that really don't care about how many stars they have. They just want to come in. They want to work hard. They want to win games. And that's what Purdue has done. Dakota Mathias didn't have Ohio State offer. He's in there. He was with the Sixers. So it's like Paint sees culture, Paint sees attitudes, and he sees development as something big, but also having the right culture in the locker room. I know a lot of coaches speak about culture, but having the right culture in the locker room is one of the biggest things. Because our team, our sophomore year, talent-wise, is better than us our junior year, I think. I think that. But culture-wise, we just had a different culture. We were going to weight room. We had guys wearing from head to toe the same exact outfit. Shirt, socks, same color underwear, same color socks, and your workout shoes. Like it was that serious to the point where, like Payne would say, I stood under a clock in the locker room. I mean, in the weight room. And if you were 30 seconds late, like, no, man, get on the versa climber. Come work out later. Like we set a type of culture that it was fun to be a part of because then other guys, you don't have to say anything. Other guys tell you get on the versa climber. And then once sophomores start leading freshmen, you know what I mean, or stuff like that. Neil Bashir was our senior. So, I mean, it ended up just being a fun culture, a fun locker room to be around.
Nice. So a lot of times it seems like guys get like kind of singled out for being the leader of the team. And I think you got a lot of credit for kind of turning that culture around, like you were just talking about. How does that kind of come about? Like, is it player decided who's the leader? Is it just mostly through your actions? Does Painter have any input on that?
Well, nah, nobody on the team could beat me up. So I was like the self-imposed leader in the locker room.
All right.
I'm just talking. I'm just joking.
What about Biggie? He's a big.
Nah, Biggie wasn't there yet. AJ didn't care enough to fight. I'm just joking. But no, actually, honestly, I was the captain. I was a captain my sophomore year. So Paint made me a captain halfway through my sophomore year. So going into that next year, I was the captain already. I was the only leader. I was the only returner guard that was playing. And at that time in the Big Ten, you had Terran Petway, you had D'Angelo Russell coming in, you had Karis LeVert, you had DJ Newble, you had Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker, you had Travis Trice and Denzel Valentine, you had Kendrick Nunn and Malcolm Hill in Illinois. So you had all good guards. And then Coach Brantley, I talk to Coach Brantley every day almost to this day. He would ask me in Maymaster, hey, Ray, who going to guard Terran Petway? You going to let a freshman guard Terran Petway? Oh, we ain't got no chance. So he would say stuff like that. He would say, if he could shoot better than you and he ended up guarding better than you, when you going to play? So Coach Brantley really got into my head defensively that year, just not being embarrassed because obviously I was going to play. And he said, hey, Ray, this freshman D'Angelo Russell, he coming in, he going to cook you. So it's like he gave me a lot of that to go out there and just be a good defender, go out there and work with Gavin Roberts, who is a strength coach now. He was an assistant strength coach then. We spent a lot of time in the weight room in Maymaster. We work out in the football weight room. So, we just changing my body, getting my lower body prepared. So when those freshmen do come in, obviously I'm a captain, and that doesn't matter. I was a captain the year before, and I only play, I think, 20 minutes a game. But I know Dakota Mathias can shoot better than me. I know Vince Edwards is bigger than me. He's more skilled than me. So in open gym, I can't let these guys have a good time. So it was open gyms where I would tell Dakota, like, he's a freshman. I was like, you're not shooting today. And he would look at me like, what's this dude talking about? And every time he catches the ball, I foul him. Every time. To the point where, like, I'm just imposing my will and I'm kind of enforcing myself to start denying people the ball and do certain things. But also the guys saw how hard I would go open gym and how much I cared to make them better and kind of push them to certain extremes. Because I would tell them, if you can't take me pushing on you and making you want to fight me, what you going to do at Michigan State? You know what I mean? When we on the road and it's the Breslin Center and they throwing beads at our family, you know what I mean? They right there on top of us. So it's one of those things where guys understood that I cared, so they allowed me to lead. But then also I do get a lot of credit, but John Noctis should get just as much or even more. Because John Noctis came into the season, after the season starts, after he had, been in a situation where he was going somewhere else, told he couldn't end up going, had to find a situation, ends up at Purdue. He comes in with, I think, a broken finger or something. And his attitude about just being ready to play and not caring just fed to the young guys. And John Noctis came in and he took leadership of those young guys. Even when he left Purdue, like a lot of people don't know this, he came back and he lived with Klein. I think it was my senior year. Yeah, he lived with Klein and Grady and those guys. Like he would cook them dinner, so because John can really, really cook. So it's like those with young guys and like PJ, when PJ was a freshman, even though PJ was a freshman, he was a point guard, he was playing behind JO. JO had a certain type of leadership and a certain type of way with the young guys that he earned their respect. And he was just kind of like the cool big brother. So JO definitely changed the program and gave us a swag. Purdue, people kind of give it to Carson and kind of gave us a swag. But I think John Noctis really gave us a different type of swag. He was from Miami, from the South. He lived in Colorado, came to Indiana, which is a different type of demeanor. But those young guys, I mean, Basil, PJ, Kendall, I mean, everybody, even that next year when he didn't play with us, Klein, Grady, Grant, they really attracted to JL. He should get a lot of credit too.
Yeah, he seems like a huge piece when he came in for us.
Oh, yeah. Be able to come in and learn the offense in like a week. I mean, I don't think JL had a car. JL was just like, he just was like just doing anything he could for the team. He just really wanted a thing. And I mean, the year I won, that was the year I won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't win that. I mean, people get a lot of credit, say I don't win that without AJ, but I don't win that without John Noctis out there with me. Because I know if I get on the switch, because we were switching at that point. I don't know what they're doing now, but we were switching. If DJ Newble switches, I got to be able to trust you not to let him get a bucket. I mean, there were times where we played Minnesota and they had the Highlands, I think it's the Highlands at the time, and the small one. I got credit for guarding. I don't know say the small one. I think it's Austin and Andre. I think I got credit for guarding Andre when John Noctis really guarded him. So it's like he guarded Yogi. He guarded all those guys too. So it's like he should get a lot of that credit. He really helped me out on the wing. He would always say before games, he would always say, Ray D, let's eat off them dudes' plate. He understood the type of name Yogi had in the conference. He knew he was new in the conference. He knew when he played against IU, he had to make a statement. He was talking about making that type of play he made at IU a week before we played IU. Because he understood the magnitude of the IU game. He loved moments like that. He would say, I'm going to be a legend after the IU game. And he became a legend after the IU game. So it's like one of those things where
Absolutely was.
John Noctis should get a lot of credit for what he did for the program too, especially just that 1 year. I mean, he opened the doors for even guys like Johnny Hill to come in the next year and do kind of similar things as him.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. It's kind of weird looking back. We've had like at Purdue, we're a very like relevant national program, but sometimes we don't get the respect necessarily as being like quote unquote the flashiest, or I don't know how to word that, but these like little defining moments of like, Octus is dunking IU, and then Carson the next year or a couple years later dunking on Josh Newkirk at Assembly Hall, which by the way, I was at both of those. It was amazing. And then, Carson and Klein in the tournament. I mean, those little things kind of like, I don't know. I feel like our national quote unquote social media brand is just like plateaued, or not plateaued, but gone up like tremendously. And I think most of that was done behind the scenes with the guys like John Octius, Grady Eifert, the guys that allowed those things to happen. Like Grady Eifert definitely had at least 1 or 2 game winners that nobody talks about, like, on the road at Nebraska or wherever it was.
Right.
We don't have our tournament runs out Grady.
Grady hits the shot at Ohio State. I think it's like 20 seconds ago or something like that. I don't know where I was, but I lose my shit. Like, to see Grady Eifert hit a game winner. I mean, because that was my guy. Like when I was a senior, his freshman year, Grady was a walk-on. If I'm leaving the locker room, Grady, let's go. Like that's my guy. Like I'm picking Grady up from the apartments. I'm taking him to my house. We watching Saturday football all day. We hanging out. We chilling. Grady asked me one morning. We have a morning practice. He just looks at me. He said, "Yo, Ray, how do you have so much energy every morning?" And I just told him I'm excited to see you every day. Like Grady was my guy. He was my freshman. I take a lot of pride in just taking care of Grady. So like for him to be able to be a walk-on, work as hard as he could, kind of not have to build his own name outside of what his brother did, what his father did, get Purdue to the Elite Eight. I mean, win 2 Big Ten championships. I felt like I hit the game winners. I felt like I live all the way through Grady. So yeah, 100%. So but I also think with Chris Foreman, what Chris has done social media wise has been big time. I mean, obviously we've given him moments too, but Chris is unbelievable at his job. I mean, I don't know if he gets enough credit. I mean, our staff, Nick Caruso, Nick T. Nick T is unbelievable at his job. I mean, the amount of film that I was privy to I would watch. I'll be in class. I know I'm getting random now, my bad, man, but it was a point where we had iPads and I'm in class. I forget I'm in class. I got a picture on my phone. I end up ordering Jimmy John's on my phone because I'm that in tune with the film I'm watching on my iPad. Because I'm like just that, because this is the year I won Defensive Player of the Year. I knew every play from every team. I prided myself on that. So it's like I'm watching so much film. We getting so much access. Nick and Kenny Lowe, they breaking down film so much. But then you got, Chris, what he does on social media, bringing attention to guys, bringing attention to Purdue. What you asked earlier, kind of about why would a kid not say Purdue? I think back then, we weren't even allowed to have Twitter. We couldn't even have an Instagram. So I think what they have allowed social media wise, Purdue was, I call it what it is. We were boring. We couldn't listen to certain music in the locker room. We were boring at one point. And now, like I said, John Actius came in and kind of said, y'all are boring. And then ever since then, it's kind of been a different type of shift. And now what Chris has done with social media, Paint opening up his mind to allow the guys to have social media, I think that's really helped the program. And I think that's also, it's helped Paint's image because Paint can really come off as a really serious guy. But when you see him in the locker room and you see his passion after a game, you see Foreman capture that. Who doesn't want to play for that? If you don't play for that, you're soft. And no disrespect to no kids, but Paint just is that dope.
Yeah, there was a clip on YouTube of I don't know what's that? Is it a spring game or something where like Katie was coaching one team and Paint's coaching the other? They bring back alumni game. Yeah, and just like seeing that side of Painter is kind of like cool to like basically shit on his own play or past teammates, and I don't know. It's just real cool.
Paint's hilarious. Like Paint, like I'm glad people got to see kind of Paint open up on my podcast, kind of tell some stories, get comfortable. Because Paint, like, dude is funny. he's like one of those serious, slick humors about him. He's a really fun guy to be around. I think that's why even in today's recruiting game, he relates to any type of player. He can relate to Carl Landry's era. He relates to this era, one, because of his honesty, but then two, he's just relatable. He's just a human being. He's just down to earth. A lot of college coaches, when they come in a room, it just feels different because the way they kind of carry themselves, as better than the team, or they're hard to work for, hard to be under. But Paint is a guy that would allow me to come up with a way to guard something, and then he'd say, hey, if it work, it work. If it don't, we're doing it my way. Instead of being the guy that just does it his way every time. So he's also, you think about it as a way to adapt to basketball. That's another great thing about. I give a lot of flowers to Paint. He should just cut me like a stipend or something, right? But look, the way that Paint, when I was at Purdue, the way we threw the ball in to AJ, we threw the ball into Biggie, to Isaac, we had to lead the country in post ups. If you were a big man, why don't you go to Purdue? You're going to get the ball every time. I told Biggie that when he was in high school. Like, I think it was Biggie or Roosevelt. Like, why wouldn't you go to Purdue? You're going to get the ball every time. Like, we counting that. We give him the ball every time. But then you transition, I leave Purdue. I'm looking at the games. I see a stat. We lead the country in 3-point field goals. So it's like Paint's a guy that he's not stuck in his ways. He's not going to just do something because I've been doing this 20 years. It works. I know it works. He understands basketball. He transitions with the games. If you're a guard now, why wouldn't you want to go play? Why wouldn't Eric Hunter want to go play for a guy that's going to let him shoot every open shot he can shoot? But also, why wouldn't Zach Edey want to come when you're going to get the ball on the block, and that's something you work on? So now Paint has kind of transitioned to now he's no longer just the bigs coach. Now, even though he had Etwan, he should never been looked at just the bigs coach. He had a part where he just had so many bigs, and I was his guard, and I wasn't shooting threes. So I kind of messed it up. But you think about now where he is on both ends, it's no rhyme or reason why you shouldn't be going to Purdue if you want a big or a guard that can shoot.
Yeah, that Michigan State game though, you were knocking down 3 balls.
Right, that was what I was. Cowan, I give every time someone said something on the Michigan State game, I give all the credit. Our manager Cowan, he's basketball ops at Miami of Ohio now. Cowan, we were at Cardinal Gym probably for about 30, 45 minutes before that game, and Cowan rebounded. We turned on music, and I don't know what he did. He just pumped me up. He would rebound for me every game, but that game I had a stain for Michigan State though, and he knew that. He played into that. Because I never beat Michigan State. And I think he kept telling me that. Like, you never beat Michigan State. And then I came out and I just kept that energy. I think we ran into the locker room to hear Coach Payne talk, like with just in time for him to talk. We ran on the court. I think I hit my first one, and then it was on from there. But I mean, without having a manager staff like a Cowan, like a Brock, I mean, like a Cody. I mean, you think of Pat, you think of all those guys that we had that would come in at Connor, that would come in that would rebound for me at odd times. Even though I'm looking back on it, Cowan would rebound probably 300-400 shots. Then I would go play a game on Tuesday and I wouldn't shoot a three at all. And he would still come back on Wednesday and rebound again. So it's like we had that type of locker room where top to bottom, from the managers to the players to the staff, everybody cared to make each other better. So it was a great environment to be around, great culture shift from my sophomore to my junior year. But then my senior year, I mean, that Michigan State game, that was one of those games where I think it was just one of those things where it was supposed to happen so I could tell my grandkids I used to be good at basketball. Because I don't use that game for nothing else. I haven't used it. I haven't seen that clip of that game that I posted. I think I posted on Twitter this week until this summer. I was showing one of my players. They didn't believe I used to actually play. They were like, "Oh, you just went to Purdue. All right, whatever." Like, all right, watch this. And then I found it on
That
YouTube.
wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah, that's what I said. Then I found it on YouTube and I showed him. And I was like, I was gonna keep this video. So just in case my grandkids, they try me one day. So, but nah, Purdue was definitely a good time. Gave me a lot of good memories.
What's it like being on the floor when the crowd's going and you're just hitting threes from all over the floor? Is it just like a totally different feeling than just hitting a big three on the road, or how does that compare?
Nah, because honestly, like for me, I was making shots, but I also had to guard the best shooter in college basketball on the other end at the same time. So I couldn't even like enjoy my moments. Like, cause and the way Michigan State plays, they play so fast. And Brent Forbes is in the NBA for a reason. He can run really fast and shoot really quick, running really fast. So it's like you make a shot and then you got to go chase Brent Forbes down in the corner and run off 3 screens. So it's really never a moment to kind of enjoy the fans, enjoy the crowd, except on that one. I remember this one. I hit one because we were in transition. And in my head, I make things up. In my head, I heard Paint saying, pull back. And Klein hit me across the court, and I hit the transition 3. And it was one of those moments where I think it was timeout or something. I heard the crowd. And in my head, it just was like, we not losing this game. We back. And when we got into that huddle, and then Coach G drew up a 3-point play for me. And I said, wait, this is for me?
Yeah,
You think
I'm pretty sure that
it was cool. It was cool, man. It was a super cool moment, man. That was electric.
That 3, I'm pretty sure the transition one kind of that Klein threw over to you. I'm pretty sure you shot it and turned around and started running the other way before it went in. I'm pretty sure if I remember right.
I was feeling it. Like I was feeling it. Yeah, because it wasn't as if I couldn't shoot. I just really didn't shoot. But it was at that moment too. I knew I had made a couple, and I knew I had some people in the crowd that wanted to be able to see me shoot. And that one just had to go in. I mean, it would have been embarrassing J.R. Smith moment if it didn't. But when that one went in, it just felt good, man. And getting that win felt really good. It felt really good for our fans to be able to beat Michigan State at home. But I mean, there's nothing like going into IU and you winning the game. Because at IU, I hit a layup towards the end of the game to kind of seal the game. And it's nothing like that. Because, you can hear a pin drop in that building. And that's a great feeling. You just go in the huddle and Payne just kind of just looking there and just kind of, you don't hear anything. It's just both feelings, because one is just to feel like the roof is going to blow off, and then the other one is just complete silence. And you can literally hear the paint crew at the top of the arena on the road game. So it was the type of moments where like those are real cool, because after the game, you get to point to them and you get to win on somebody else's court. So, I'm real big on that, because fans and the paint crew traveling to games and having to sit up top, and for them to be able to experience a win and take that win back home, that's got to be big for them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Freshman
Even,
go ahead.
go ahead, Nick. I was just gonna say.
My freshman year, I went to Louisville. I did the Pink Crew trip to Louisville.
There we go.
It was totally different going from Mackey to a different environment. Like we were sitting up in the top and the back corner, and it was like dead silent in there. Louisville's up by like 20, and it's dead silent in there.
Yep.
We're just like, do you care about basketball? But obviously they do. But
Right.
it was just a totally different situation. I've brought friends with me to Mackey, and they leave with headaches when we lose.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's like a totally different situation. So like for you, what are the toughest environments you've played in on the road?
On the road, I mean, IU's tough. Nah, man. Michigan State's tough. IU's tough. Michigan State's tougher than IU to me, because they're right on top of you. They're right there, right behind you. I mean, they got scout. I mean, all fan sections have scout reports of the team, but I mean, Michigan State, especially if you get them in like a 12 o'clock game, ESPN game or whatever, TV game, and they're all in that white. The end zone is all in white. I mean, that's a cool game to play in, cool environment to be in. I didn't like playing in the barn just because of the gym, just because of the setup of the barn. It's just a hard gym to play in. It's a hard gym to get used to. I didn't like how you had to go like underneath to get to the locker room. I think that was dumb. But no, man, I think all the Big Ten arenas are in a unique way tough, because even Penn State at that time, I don't know how it is now, at that time, it's tough because it's really not a lot of fans there. It's a really big arena, not really full. So you got to create your own energy. And creating your own energy is what they're having to do now, but that's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? So creating your own energy is tough on the road. But I mean, now they're creating own energy at home, which, I mean, that's a different battle. But Michigan State, IU, those gyms where it's not a lot of Maryland. Wow. Maryland.
Yeah.
That drop, that wall of fans is tough. Like, I had probably 30 family members come to that. My family's from DC. My mother is. I had probably 30 family members come to the game. I mean, that just makes you forget about whoever you had come to the game, because that's a tough place to play, especially if it's rocking. I think we were both ranked when we played there. I think we should have won, but I mean, that game is crazy too. Everybody is saying Rutgers. I just must not have been like tuning in to Rutgers recently, because I never got that feeling at the Rutgers gym. But I gotta watch a Rutgers game or something.
Yeah, Maryland's tough. I just remember how ruthless they were to Isaac.
Oh yeah.
They were
100%.
so mean to Isaac.
No, that's how it is. Life on the road in the Big Ten, but that's also a reason you want to come play in a tough environment. You want to come play at Purdue because it's going to get you ready to play on the road. I mean, it's going to get you ready to play against the best teams in the conference. I mean, the best teams in the country. I mean, you think about right now, I mean, the Big Ten could have 3 teams in the Final Four. I mean, it could shake out that way, 3 or 4. I mean, the Big Ten is that good this year to where it's one of the best years ever in the league, I think. So I think for guys that are being recruited, it's the place you want to come play. And so you want to play for Coach Payne. You want to play for Michigan State. You want to get the league better. You want to get better as a player. So why wouldn't you? But no, I could go on and on about Purdue and why to play for Purdue, though, man.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not gonna keep you guys on here long, man. I definitely appreciate you guys joining in with me, man. This is a lot of fun. I hope to do this again. Definitely make sure anybody out there, make sure you check out our basketball camps. I'm gonna say it again one more time. We're having both spring break camps in West Lafayette. 2 weeks of basketball camp in West Lafayette at Legacy Courts. Then also we're having our spring break camp in Fort Wayne, Indiana, April 5th through 7th for Fort Wayne Community Schools. I mean, again, like, subscribe, comment, boiler up with Rapheal Davis. Subscribe to the Field of 68 Podcast Network. Follow me on Twitter, Rapheal Davis 3, Instagram, Rapheal Davis. You guys want to throw out your Twitters or anything like that?
I don't know if they want to follow my Twitter. It's mostly your stuff getting retweeted. So just follow right now.
Yeah, same.
No, I appreciate everybody joining us. Until next time, boiler up Rapheal Davis. Make sure we tune into that Nebraska game. I'm excited to watch.
Thanks for having us, Rapheal.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.